Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Anasa. There you are. So happy to see you. So let's start with meditation. So take your attention below your belly button with a deep breath. Attention follows energy. So allow yourself to breathe. And feel your attention coming down in your body, all the way to just below your belly button. So you're really feeling there and tending to that space. That space is yellow like the sun, home base, safe place. And when you hold your attention there, you can feel a different kind of center in yourself. Just be with that place. And when you're ready, drop your attention deeper, all the way down to the center of the earth. So we have a visiting dog this morning. Pay no attention. This is really good for concentration. Keep dropping your awareness deeper and deeper into the center of the earth. From this place, we'll begin to practice the Om sound. Ah, oo, mm. So we'll do it 3 times out loud, then 3 times whispering, and then 3 times we'll just watch the energy move. Take a deep breath in. Om. Now just feel into the space between the breaths for a few minutes. When you're ready, holding your attention inside, allow your eyes to open. So happy to be here with you this morning. How may we serve? So we'll talk a little bit about the process of spiritual growth. As you take your attention inside, this process has been talked about like polishing a mirror, that the connection to source, access to that real living connection to source is cleaning the dust out of our system from years and years of having our attention outward and believing that that is the most important thing in our lives, to participate in our outer life and expect fulfillment from that. So when we finally take our attention inside and begin to cultivate our connection to the deepest part of ourselves, which is the source energy, we have to allow all the disappointments that we have accumulated from our external experience to unwind in a way. And in that process, we begin to face our disappointments. They rise up. And very often, well, in the beginning, they rise up about our immediate external experience. And then as we get a little bit deeper and our beingness starts to unwind, we begin to experience patterns in ourselves that are obstructive to our deeper inner work. And so begins this inner, it's been likened to a spiritual battle. Like the Bhagavad Gita is all about the spiritual battle that happens inside of us when we start to do inner work. And it's all told through a series of myths. And they invoke gods and goddesses because there are parts of us that are spiritually oriented. Those are the gods. And parts of us that really would rather well, you could call them demonic parts of us. They're parts of us that are not interested in being in union with the highest that's possible for a human being. And we could call that demonic. So that's a completely different idea of how life is organized. It's not exactly good and evil. It's more like what is in our own highest best interests and what is not. And you can only have evil if you take this polarity that going toward your highest is good and not going toward your highest is bad. And it's not really like that. It's really about balance, because we have desires, and some of them are needs. Like we have to eat 3 times a day, or at least twice, but we have to take in food and water. We have to do it. And so, and all of life is like that. It's a balance. There's what we need, and then there's excess. And when we invoke the ideas of good and bad rather than balance, we tend to go to extremes. And so as these deeper patterns start to reveal themselves in us as our own spiritual war, and we don't really like the concept of war because it invokes competition and defeat. And so this is why we use the word allowing. We allow these patterns that may not be in service to the highest best to come into our awareness. And we begin to engage in ourselves a discussion about what is in our highest best in this particular pattern that we're facing. And we all have at least one very big pattern within us that we have come here to solve in this lifetime. Very often it's one very intense thing that we have to grapple with. But it seems like a many-headed beast when we first begin to look inside. And there's all kinds of mythology about this and about confronting this. And it's not just Indian mythology, Greek mythology is full of it also. And it's about this deep internal facing of what doesn't serve us and allowing it to show itself, then allowing our reaction to that showing of itself, which usually involves a deep sense of self-hatred in some way, because this is the thing that is keeping us from our joy. And when we allow ourselves to feel the obstruction, all kinds of feelings emerge. And this is like the leprechaun, or well, there are different images in different cultures for this experience, but as our feelings awaken in us, they change as we address these deeper patterns, and we go through shame and guilt and fear in any order, despair, anger, all of the negative emotions, all of our darkness begins to arise as we address a pattern. And very often that pattern will appear to be fighting back in a way, because all this negativity arises. And we're like, what am I doing inner work for when all it does is make me feel bad? That experience sometimes happens. So this is where we use Ho'oponopono. As the negativity arises, in whatever form it arises, in whatever encounter we have within and around ourselves that stimulates our self-rejection, we bring forth Ho'oponopono to address that deep discomfort within us. Thank you for showing me this discomfort. I'm sorry that this is keeping me from my highest self. I love you to that which is our highest, all of which is inside of us. And as we do this, we begin to experience connection to something deeper. And so the practice itself is very simple, but simplicity does not mean that it's not difficult. And the simplicity allows us to keep our head in the midst of the intensity. We welcome your questions. Yes.
So this week, I was considering moving to a place that's half as big as I'm living in now. And I've been mentally trying to get rid of. So I have 1,000 square feet now, moving to 500 square feet. I have at least 50 pieces of art. I have a house full of stuff, and I'm having a really hard time mentally letting go of things and thinking about leaving. So I'm just wondering if you have any tips on how to, it feels so material, but someday I'm going to die and I'm going to have to let go of everything. So I'd like to be able to, when I meet somebody that might want something, I love being able to give them things, but I have so much stuff and I'd like to know how to start letting go of it. Can't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you for saying. So you were responding, or we were responding. So what to do when you are going through a big change is you focus on what you want to happen. So you imagine the space that you're going into, and you imagine everything you want in that space. So you think, instead of thinking about what you're losing or however you're giving it away, these are two separate processes. Building the new is a different process from letting go of the old. And we tend to think of what we're losing instead of what we're creating in these changes. So the first thing is, what kind of environment do you want to create around yourself? What is it that you want to support inside yourself? And what are the things that you can put around you that will help you do that? So that's the first thing we would say, is that you carefully think about how you're going to create this new space. and you regard that as your purpose initially. And then as you do that, it will create a flow that will begin to show you, oh, this should go here and that should go there. And think of yourself as if you have the flexibility in your life, think about where the things that you own that don't really serve where you're going now, where those things could be of the greatest benefit and to whom. And so as you think about that and think of it as a flow of putting things in their highest place, what's going with you, and then how can the things that aren't going serve the whole? And you pick up each thing and you say, where does this go? Does this go with me? Well, no, it doesn't really serve. Okay, and there's a whole I'll call it a stratosphere of where other things can go, from, you know, gifting to someone that you know would really appreciate something, and thinking about what it is that they would appreciate the most. So all the people around you, you think about that. And then there are things that, you know, maybe are necessities in life that you have more than you need. We're talking about clothing and furniture, things like that. Then there are things online like, oh, Brenda, what are they called? Or buy nothing for people who are really needy. There are places where you can gift. You can give to the Salvation Army. You can you know, sort of have an attitude of who can this serve and how can this serve? And then you can do anything from having a garage sale to actually having somebody come in and appraise things of value and see exactly what's of value and where you want to put it. So this is what we would encourage, is to first go through and select those things that you really want to have in your environment. And this means that first of all, you go, and we don't know anything about your environment. So first of all, you think about how you would like the space. Do you want a lot of things in the space or very sparing things in the space? And there is a whole science of organizing space called Vastu in India, which is another name for Feng Shui. And it's like, where do things go? What's the best place for this, and what belongs here and what belongs there? You could go into your new space with someone who specializes in that, and they could help you set it up so that energetically it will really serve what it is you want to serve. So this is a beautiful time for this question, because there's a whole learning that can happen in how to set up a space so that it really energetically works, and how to really utilize everything in your environment for the betterment of others. And so it can be an extraordinary experience, this move, from that perspective. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was very helpful. What I get hung up on is giving up. For instance, I have lots of light right now in my home. I have windows in all directions, lots of windows, lots of light, lots of greenery outside, and I'd be moving to a place that's very dark. It only has a couple of windows. I mean, so I'm just feeling, I mean, it's wonderful to think about, you know, the positive, but it's like letting go of, I'm just having a hard time thinking about letting go. And I don't have to move. I'm going to stay where I am, but. Anyway,
Well, why would you take yourself to a place that's dark?
well, because it's in the I want to stay in the neighborhood I am, and this place is it's really close, and I could stay in this neighborhood if I moved there. That's why.
Well, maybe it's not the right time to move if you haven't found the right space.
Oh, good thinking. Yeah.
Because you want to move to a space that's going to make you feel better, not worse. And you've already said that one of your priorities is light. So you can use every space that you look at. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So you can use every space that you look at as an opportunity to discover what makes you happy in a space. So instead of moving to something because you know that it's very important for you to stay in the neighborhood and to have light. So those are two things you really know. So you're waiting for the space that's going to promote you.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That was very helpful.
So always when we're making a big decision, we want to step back from that decision because you know, for example, you take what you know that your space is bigger than you want to live in. As you are embracing another stage of life, let's say it like that. So you take what you know that's sort of compelling you to make a decision, and then you imagine what could be the highest outcome in that decision. How could it be the best for everybody? And so the first thing, you want to make it the best for you. So and this is a process that Rebecca went through when she decided to move out of an ashram after 30 years. It was like, well, what kind of space do we create a home in? You know, the world is your oyster. So you think of it from that perspective, and then you go from there. And having never bought a house before, it was like, okay, well, look at this house, and everything that doesn't feel good, we write it down. And then we go back to the drawing board and say, well, what could be better than that? First we sit in the space and we say, okay, what's good about this space and what's not so good about this space? And in this way, we learn about ourselves. We learn what we really want, what makes us inspired to be in a space. And so it turns the whole thing into a learning experience about ourselves. And then having found the right space, then we think, well, where do things go in this space, and what do I really need, and what will make me the happiest in this space? And so you discover who you are and what you love. And in that process, you will be engaging more and more people, because this whole process requires probably a real estate agent, maybe not, but it requires that you get some feedback from people, especially when you get to the part about what it is you're going to take and where it's going to go. You can learn what you love around you, what really makes you happy, and take only that. And then we're beginning to repeat ourselves. So, but every decision, every life-changing decision that we make, this is the process. You look at where you want to end up, not what you're losing. And so this works for change of location. Now, there are things that happen, there are losses that happen that we need to recover from. That's a different conversation. And we all go through that too. But what we're trying to convey here is that we want to turn our life into a learning experience of every part of it beginning to delight us, and sharing our delight with others in every, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspect of our lives. We want to promote ourselves and everyone else. And so everything that we do, we start from that context instead of thinking about what it is we're losing. We think about what we're creating. And, the materials that we have at our disposal in our creation will change. And what it is we're trying to create will change depending on our circumstances. So, but we still always envision the highest. And we, from that perspective, may be very surprised about the opportunities that appear for us when we're focusing on the highest best rather than what we're losing. Because whatever we put our attention on, that's what we're telling the universe that we want more of. So if we put our attention on loss, the universe is going to give us more loss. Which doesn't mean that we won't lose things and go through grief. And grief, really, everything is fine as long as we are in the context of love. When we understand that grief is love turned inside out, then we know that it's love, and we can begin to feel the love from the person. Usually our greatest grief is from the people that are around us. We can focus on the love as the source of our grief. So as long as we're focusing on the love, we are in alignment, even though we may be in great pain. And the price of admission, sadly, the price of admission to spiritual life is pain. But the pain's going to come no matter what. The question is, are we going to embrace it with love and have it be a learning experience of our deeper and deeper connection to that which is true, ultimate reality? Are we going to focus on going in that direction, or are we going to focus on the destructive side, which is always there? And it is the lowest common denominator of facing pain. And we all go there. There's no wrong. There's nothing wrong about the dark side of the pain. That's not failure. That's just experiencing the dark side of the pain. That's our reaction to pain. And that's not wrong, it's just true. And we bring ourselves to a deeper experience of what we're made of by allowing that to be and saying Ho'oponopono into it, because we know it's taking us into a deeper awareness of how to be, or what the highest, finest energetic field is available to a human being. And we don't like the word highest because then there's lowest and then we're back in another polarity. And third dimension is all about polarities. And the truth is that what we're searching for is the doorway into infinity, which is between all polarities, where all polarities meet in equanimity. That is the doorway to ultimate reality. And all parts are welcome. How may we serve further?
That was very helpful. Thank you very much. I was actually, I mean, I was like, I had blinders on and I thought this is my only choice. But I just feel like everything is opened up now. I could create something positive. Anyway, so thank you very much.
Oh,
No,
you are so welcome. You're
Good.
so welcome. We're delighted. How may we serve further? Yes.
So your conversation with, I won't mention the name, but I see it right here, was brought up a whole lot of things, but also one of the main, I would call it obstacles in my life, I would say our lives, is all of the stuff that we have. We have lived here for longer than we've ever lived anywhere. And we brought all of our stuff from the last place with us, and it is still with us. And most of it is not serving us at all. It's being stored in our wonderful outbuildings. And the task of dealing with that, which is way past time for dealing with that, is daunting. I realize that you can't do it all at once, and thinking of it as the whole thing, thinking of the whole thing at once is overwhelming. You suggested things that we have come up with, which is giving things away. We were thinking of having a garage sale where everything's free. We just put everything out and let people take what they want, which would be way easier than trying to find where it could best be serve others. Hauling things to, we did just drop off things at Goodwill, but it would take about, I'd say 100 trips to Goodwill to unload all of it. And most of it is not Goodwill quality. The final obstacle is being so averse to adding things to the landfill. I just am appalled when I see photos and hear about the landfills filling up with just stuff. I don't want to do that. And in fact, some of the things that we've saved that were questionable turned out to be very useful, but you know, that's a minuscule amount of the stuff. So it feels as though psychologically, it's also a question of energy at this point. I don't feel as though I have the energy to confront it. But it's also a negative, a feeling of being completely blocked.
So start small. If you can, it might be helpful to there are several avenues coming to mind. You need help to get the process started. So there are two things that we see. One is getting somebody, well, the first thing is to hire an organizer for 2 days to give you a plan. Like just give you this place, then this place, then that place, in this way, in that way, because there are holes in your awareness of how to do it. So there's an education that has to happen. So, you know, you don't need to hire somebody to do the whole thing. You need to hire somebody to educate you about how to do it. So, because what it's engendering now are just a whole bunch of negative feelings about yourselves for being in the situation. So the first thing is to learn how to get out of the situation. So we're not good at that, but there are people who are. And so you want one of those people to come and give you a few days of their expertise so that you can have flow within yourselves about getting this moving. And the thing is, once it starts to move, it's going to unlock so much stuck energy within you that getting the process, once the flow starts to go, you'll be engaged in the process because it's going to allow you a freedom of motion that you haven't experienced for years, because this weight of stuff has been on you. So you may need to get educated about who takes what in and from an environmental perspective, because there are different places that take different things that don't put them in landfill. We're not aware of this, but we know that there are people out there that that's all they think about. And so you need one of those to educate you. You may only need them for an hour. It's not like you have to invest your entire rest of your life to having this happen. But since this is something that has come up, you know, this is maybe our second conversation about this. This is an obstruction in your field of flow. It's keeping you from enjoying your life, really. So giving it your attention and, you know, finding ways to learn about where to put things, where to, and the idea of a gift yard sale is fine if there are people close enough to you who would participate. We don't know about your location. So you'll, you know, it may require that you talk to a church and a truck comes and takes everything and have a yard sale there, or give it away in that way. That you find organizations, it sounds like the quantity of things that you have, you know, somebody could come and sift through what can be used. And that might be totally free. So it's these kinds of avenues that are ways to begin looking. As I said, this isn't our specialty, but there are definitely people who do specialize in this and could educate you pretty quickly and not expensively, especially since, you know, you're not looking to reclaim a lot of profit from much of what you have. You're looking for how to, but, you know, the idea of putting it someplace where it can be useful is fine. And then finding the right place to trash it is also important, because landfills is not a good enough reason to live under a pile of things that have lost their usefulness for you. So there are other alternatives to be found.
Yes, I needed to hear that to give another impetus to getting started. I will do some research as to who could come and help us think through and figure out how to begin. And it is important. It's more important. As I've been looking at it, I realize that it's more important on all levels of my spiritual work. It's sort of symbolic of something that has needed to be addressed, maybe forever, I don't know, but definitely it's up for me now.
Yes, well, we get this. You know, Rebecca is from a family of people who tend to hoard. And so this is not an unfamiliar, that's an extreme word, but it happens to all of us that we collect things over our life that we think will someday serve a purpose. And so we don't let go of them when they've lost their functionality for us, because we know what it's like to not have in a moment. And so there is this feeling that if we let go of this thing, we'll never have it again, and we might need it. Familiar? So, given the understanding that everything is about flow, there are a couple ways we want you to embrace this. One is from the perspective of education, so you can learn anything you want online. So think of how to articulate what it is that you don't want to go into the landfill, and ask the question on Google, how do I get rid of, say, batteries? That's just one that we have. And you'll get 16 answers. And you follow what looks real and educate yourself. Just allow yourself to understand. And then once you learn about batteries, you'll know everything about where to get rid of electronics, maybe. And so you categorize the things. And that's one way. But we're not organizers. We're the opposite of that. We're disorganizers and then reorganizers. But there is this whole thing in life about disorganizing and reorganizing that is the way to approach this project, because it's really about flow. And when you understand that dust in your life is dust in your inner life in a certain way, then that can begin to move this. And this is not an uncommon problem, and Rebecca has it in spades too. So this is real. And it's one foot in front of the other. And even if you just spend 10 minutes in a day doing something about it, instead of chastising yourself in a repetitive pattern like you've been doing for a long time, just 10 minutes of action, you know, being on the computer, asking questions, making lists, can change your inner state so that maybe you can do another 10 minutes. But you don't have to, this doesn't have to run your life for the next 6 months. But as you begin to move it, you'll feel your inner life unlocking. And you'll have a lot more just inner flow. There will be, you know, and as you look on the internet for solutions, you'll begin to find the people who want to come and take things because they know where they should go. You know, you might have a truckload of something. And in that something, there might be 2 or 3 things of real value. And those you want to find, but the rest, you know, and you want somebody to help you know what's what. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. It's very
Start
encouraging.
slow. Start slow.
Start slow.
10 minutes of actually doing something.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for asking the question. This is fantastic. And this is such a common problem. It's, you know, we are in a culture where the accumulation of things is what we're all told is what life is about. And nobody tells us that we're going to accumulate so many things we can't breathe. And what do we do when that happens, except feel bad about ourselves? But it's really about flow. And the way you get inner flow is by having your life be about flow. And that gives you the freedom to really become yourself. It's all interlinked, the inner and outer, but we've paid so much attention to accumulating on the outer and so little attention to what it is that actually powers the power that accumulates, that we don't understand that flow is what makes everything happen. It's what makes our bodies work. If we don't move, we can't flow. Thank you so much for asking that question. All questions
Thank
this
you.
morning have been just fabulous. This is where we all live, you know, in the physical world. And we create situations that make us feel like we're trapped. When really it's our matrix of belief that, and the fundamental understanding that flow is what makes everything happen. And then paying attention to what it is that allows us to flow the best. And so because we start to tune in this way, we may have to, you know, make more time for movement in our life, for like getting up and making our physical flow happen. Maybe more attention to what it is that we eat that makes our body function the best. Maybe more attention to, you know, things in our body that don't move optimally. I don't think anybody on this call has not put a lot of attention into that, and making our life be, you know, Rebecca's definition of health is a range of motion in every dimension. And that range of motion we could easily call flow. So what we're really looking for is range of motion in the physical, in the mental, that we don't get stuck in certain ideas about who and what we are and what we're here for, that we're really constantly evaluating our matrix of belief. Is this in my highest best? Which seems like a very selfish question to ask. And yet, until we get that love in ourselves, how can we give that to anybody else? What are we giving when we, you know, have all this undigested stuff in ourselves? What is it that we have to offer both ourselves in terms of the integrity of our self-love, our connection to the deepest part of ourselves, and what we're offering the world, the people we meet, the situations we're in. And so this flow, physical, mental, emotional and spiritual, that the amount of flow, not the amount, the quality of flow that we can generate in each of these aspects of our life determines the quality of our lives. And as we address each of these areas, we become a much richer and finer person to both ourselves and the people we share our lives with. It's 11:11, which is connection to the highest. How may we serve? Yes.
Last week you were helpful in talking about getting the thoughts out of your head by dropping your attention to the heart or the, down in the solar plexus or in the belly area, which has been, and doing the mantra, and that's been helpful for meditation. I've been trying to do it when I can't sleep at night. I wake up and I can't get back to sleep because the thoughts are, so I tried, and I'm having really a hard time. I'm having a hard time dropping thoughts when I'm sleeping, and I don't know, do you have anything you could say about that?
Do you have a favorite mantra?
Oh, I have a lot of them, yeah.
Do you have one favorite?
No. Om Namah Shivaya is a good one. I mean,
That's just what we were thinking.
right.
And whatever way you want to do it, if Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I mean, whatever way it comes to you, do that. Because whatever it is that's disturbing you, there's nothing to be done about it in the middle of the night or when you should be sleeping. We'll take the should out of that. That doesn't belong in this conversation. When you would rather be asleep, but you're awake,
Right.
fighting it, as we've all learned, fighting it doesn't work. What does work is relaxing, understanding that your mind isn't going to help. And so you just pick up your mala and do Om Namah Shivaya. And you'll fall asleep with your mala in your hand. Try it.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not about suppressing or denying or, it's about replacing the anxiety about sleep with a mantra. And it's interesting because Rebecca recently went to a Chinese doctor with one of her complaints was only sleeping 5 hours a night. And the Chinese doctor said, well, how old are you? She said, that's totally appropriate for your age. As people age, they need less sleep.
Oh.
That is part of Chinese understanding. Now, whether that's true or not, it was very reassuring. And since then, this practice of keeping my mala next to the bed and reaching for the mantra has been extremely helpful.
Hmm.
It takes all the judgment, self-judgment, the argument with the body about sleep and the feeling that, not getting enough is a horrible curse. All of that can just go out the window because none of that's really the point. The point is, what am I going to do in this moment? Is my brain going to circle around with, whatever? Or can I just love God for a moment? Love the God in me.
Huh.
Give it a try and let us know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're happy to have this conversation as many times because sleep is a difficult one for many of us. How may we serve further? Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, sleep is a problem for me too. But one of the things that I've done lately is I have YouTube, and it actually has several choices of music that you can listen to specifically for sleeping and also for meditation. And is that good? Is that good? It helps. I start it and I close my computer almost all the way so it's not giving off light, and it's quiet and it puts me right to sleep, and then it goes off at a certain point. So you know, but is it okay to have that electronic thing that close in when you're sleeping, you know?
Well, the thing is just to ask your body, and clearly your body's saying yes.
It lets me sleep.
Yes. So,
Yeah, okay. I
yeah.
worry about the electronic aspect because you know the what do they call the EMFs, or there's so many electromagnetic fields that we're subjected to.
Yes. And we are a trial system. We're a trial. It's a human trial that is going on.
Right.
And there is no escaping it, truly. And feeling like we can just makes us paranoid.
Yeah.
And so we're just turning into a different kind of human being than has ever been on the earth before.
Mm.
And when we can allow that to happen, because we don't really have another choice, there is a lot of there are a lot of toxins in our environment, and it's recreating what a human being is. And it's not like we have a choice. About the things we do have a choice, then it's our responsibility to do the best we can. But most of it, we really, we don't have a choice, or the choices are so expensive and onerous to contemplate that, we still don't have a choice, really. And so we live in acceptance of what is happening that we can't do anything about. We do what we can do something about, and we are grateful when these conveniences help us to do what we are trying to do with our lives. So that's how we feel about EMFs. And
Good.
interestingly, there are a number of studies that show that even the people who think they're most sensitive to EMFs are not, their sensitivity is not reliable in a scientific environment. Now, it may be because there's so many EMFs in the environment already that, it's just hard to say about scientific studies, because usually the people doing them are fairly dense. But, we all have to live with certain amounts of toxicity, and we do our best to accommodate our bodies. But fear doesn't help. So we allow ourselves to experience the fear. We do Ho'oponopono and see if we can bring ourselves to joy. Did
Yeah.
that answer the question?
Yeah, it pretty much did. Not really afraid of those things as much as I wonder, if just removing them or moving them further away or that sort of thing is a good idea, That's, that's really all. But yes, but basically if it's helpful for a main reason, then
Yeah.
then
Why
yeah.
not? Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, and yes. So if there's nothing else, we'll go into meditation. So as usual, at this point, we're going to keep our eyes open as much as possible. It may not be possible, but we will be generating a field that you're all welcome to participate in. Thank you so much for being here today, and let's go into meditation. Thank you so much for coming. We've really enjoyed today. We invite you to meditation on Wednesday night, and we look forward to seeing you next week. So much love.